Step into a world where ancient wisdom meets modern mysticism. Introducing the Gnostic Tarot, a powerful fusion of esoteric art and Gnostic themes designed for those who seek the ultimate gnosis. This mesmerizing deck, rich in symbolism, draws from the profound teachings of Gnosticism, serving as an ideal companion for meditation, reflection, and the exploration of spiritual realms. Whether you are a seasoned tarot enthusiast or new to the practice, the Gnostic Tarot caters to all, offering a portal to ancient wisdom and a tool for uncovering the hidden truths in your mystical journey. Unveil the mysteries, embrace the wisdom. The Gnostic Tarot is a timeless companion for your spiritual odyssey. Take a journey with Gnostic luminaries and learn their stories in a visually stunning manner. From Sophia to the Gnostic Christ, their journey is your self-discovery. Choose from the basic deck or the deluxe version, which includes a beautifully crafted journey book and a magnetic storage box, ensuring that your Gnostic Tarot remains a treasured companion on your spiritual quest. The Gnostic Tarot is an original and collaborative effort between Miguel Conner of Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio and Matthew Schmitz of Altrusian Grace Media. Visit our website to embark on your journey today. Syncrasis Publishing, where ancient wisdom and modern mysticism converge. Welcome, everybody, and yes, get thee thy Gnostic Tarot. Especially in these crazy times, we need as many spiritual tools as possible, and I have heard that this deck has really created wonders in this Philip K. Dick world, age of Hermes and Gnostic times. But regardless, I hope you're writing your own gospel and living your own myth. I hope you're running with those searching for the truth and avoiding those who have found them. My name is Miguel Conner, your Pompatus of Gnosis, as always, and it's good to see you, and it's good to talk to you as well on this Friday, whether you're listening live or you are catching the rebroadcast. So again, great to see you, and we've got a very special show today. We will hit a lot of amazing topics, and with us for this, we've got Daniel Joseph. Daniel, how are you doing? And thank you very much for coming on the show.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to it.
Pleasure's all ours, and those watching on the different video platforms may be saying, well, you seem to be not exactly in a studio or the comfort of your own living room, but yes, Mother Nature has been not kind to you, right?
It had different plans for me today.
Yeah. Well, good thing you found some internet in the car, and we do what we can, and that's the beauty about the internet technology is there are ways to pivot. There are ways to adjust. Well, just like in life itself. And with us too, we've got the Moondog Vance. Vance, how are you doing on this Friday?
Oh, I'm pretty good this morning. Always looking forward to a show on spiritual awakening and so forth. So ready to go.
Heresy shouldn't be this much fun, but it is. It just is. So let's do it. Yes, I see already people populating the chat. Good to see you. Yeah, Mr. Grampong, how are you doing? Kill your egregores. Good day to you, sir. Hunter. I hope everybody's well. And as always, if you do have a question for Daniel, please super chat them so that we can separate them and get to thy issues. Well, Daniel, let's start with you. Let's start in the beginning. How did you tell us a little bit about your spiritual hitchhiking? It seems, did your journey begin at 7, or when did your spiritual journey begin?
It really did begin at 7, where I entered into a conscious dialogue with my guardian angel who would guide me and tell me things that would come true. And the funny thing about it is at age 7, no one had told me about this. I just heard it, but the voice was so authentic and so true and so simple. It didn't say a lot of words. It was just very concise that I automatically trusted it. Like it was like I knew my own mother's voice. It just was so recognizable to me. So all through my life from that point on, I had a lot of spiritual experiences that nobody could explain. I talked to my parents. They thought I was crazy. So when I got to around 20, I just started off on my own journey. And I went to India, I went everywhere. I did try to find somebody that knew what was going on and what could explain these things to me. And then, I think I was around 38 when without cost or effort, I landed on Cyprus, an island in the western Mediterranean Sea next to Syria. And there was a Christian mystic, a master on that island. And I ended up on his doorsteps, and he started teaching me. And he would raise people who had been crippled for 20 years. And he taught how it worked and how you can do it too. So he trained us. And there weren't a lot of people around him at that time. His name is Dr. Stelianos Ateshlis, or Dascalos, if you have heard of him. And it just lit a fire in me that he just had those answers that I'd been seeking for 20 years. So I've been seeking the truth for 20 years. But when I got to him, he started revealing stuff, and then you started researching the truth. So you start doing it and researching it. And, truth is, what's truth? There's a great range of truth, There's no one has the absolute truth. What we have is pieces of relative truth. So as a spiritual seeker, what we do is we just advance up the ladder of relative truth. And in spiritual truth, they encompass the lower truth. Worldly truth, sometimes it's true and then it's not true. Like the planet Pluto, it's a planet. No, it's not a planet. Well, yeah, it is a planet. No, it's not a planet. But spiritual truth, it just keeps it's like a circle enlarging that encompasses everything. So from that point on, I started researching the truth, and I've been a researcher of truth for the last 35 years.
Thanks for sharing that. And when you were a kid, was there any sort of crisis or anything that brought your guardian angel, or was it just sort of
No,
spontaneous, happened?
it was actually joy. I was feeling so happy, and I was a place in my life where everything was really wonderful, and I just wondered why me? Why was it so wonderful for me? And he started explaining what I'd been in a past life, and the good you do carries forward and makes your future life better. So what that means really is that we're casting our destiny all the time, both our destiny in this life, destiny in the afterlife, and the destiny in the future life. So we should really learn how it works so we can create the life, the future, and the destiny we want.
Yeah, store your treasures in heaven, as they say in Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what do you mean by searching for the truth? Because again, like you said, some of us seekers, we start out even at a young age, why are we here? What's the purpose? Why is there evil? What's on the other side and all that? Do you find these questions? Because sometimes I realize maybe it's more about purpose. Why am I here? And is there any purpose for me? Was it like for you? Is this an intersection, or how did your journey go?
It was all that, of course. But, first was I was having these out of body experiences. I didn't know what that was. They were kind of terrifying when you first do it because you see your body there, but you're not in the body.
Hmm.
And at first, that's kind of frightening. But after a while, it does two things. You get used to it, but it also proves to you there is no death. The body dies, but you as a self-awareness continue on. So the fear of death goes away immediately after you have some really solid out-of-body experiences.
Yeah, exactly. It is an illusion, and it's important as a part of life. They're two connected to each other, just part of the journey.
Yeah.
But for the audience, maybe could you explain a little bit more about who Dascalos is and his impact on you?
He was one of these ascended masters, and his purpose is he's always been coming here. He's always going to stay coming here, and he does great things when he comes. And this time around, he was teaching people how to find the truth and within them. And so he really called his thing an esoteric Christianity. Now, he was a Greek, so in Greek, the word esoteric means knowledge from within,
Right.
whereas exoteric means knowledge from without, from a church, from some authority. So he was trying to get everybody to go within to find this knowledge, to find this inner knowledge. And, first thing we do is we hear knowledge. Somebody tells us something. We read it in a book. Well, that's theoretical knowledge. It could be true or it could be not true. So what we have to do is start to live by it and prove it to ourselves. Then it becomes experiential knowledge that nobody can take from you.
Mhm.
It's like if you've been to Paris and somebody says, "Oh, the Eiffel Tower is on the left bank," and if you've been, you don't know if you haven't been there. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But if you've been there, you go, "No, it's not. It's on the right side of the bank." So it's your own experiential knowledge that is really the most valuable thing, and it's something that can't be taken from you. And knowledge is not wisdom, but knowledge leads to wisdom. So it's a long, long journey for all of us, and we have to have our experiences along the way, and that's how we start to understand and get the experiential knowledge.
Yeah, indeed. And I think this kind of truth, would you agree it's hard to express? I mean, Jesus had to use parables. The ancients had to use myths and metaphors. It's something you can't just say it in linear language and linear time. Would you agree with that? Or
Yeah, pretty much so. And they didn't put it in parables and stuff so they didn't get killed because they had to hide it, right? If
uh,
anybody times sticks their hand, say, "Oh, I got some truth that you normal people, the establishment doesn't have," what they do is they kill him. They made Socrates drink poison. They poisoned Akhenaten, who did the same thing, the Egyptian pharaoh, and obviously Christ.
yeah,
So
indeed. The status quo just doesn't want to listen. They don't want things to change.
yeah, that's right.
And what are some of the teachings of Dascalos? I know we are kind of in linear time, but we have to do our best. Does he have a tradition, or was he an innovator, or how would you describe his teachings on
Yeah.
the best possible way?
Well, he's making a system that has been in existence for over 2,000 years, but it's been handed down orally. He's the first one that put it out there in books and systematized it for us. And it's what is it's the research of truth, but it's been going on. So each successive generation of researchers of truth have
Mhm.
had their own experiences and added to this body of knowledge. So it's accumulating. But really, the first researcher of truth, we have to say, was the first caveman that looked up at the night sky and said, "Where am I?" Or saw his reflection, "Who am I?" That's really the first researcher. And all human beings are basically researchers. We're all trying to find the truth of something, right?
Mhm.
Even look at children. The first thing they do is they try putting things in their mouth. They're looking for truth. It's man's inner nature to seek the truth.
Mhm.
So in that way, we can say this whole lineage is the perennial lineage, the perennial teachings that have been coming from the very beginning. And of course, it's been not well presented. You'll find a lot of what Dascalos taught, not a lot, but parts of it in fragmented terms in the Rosicrucians, in the Theosophical Society, pieces here and there. But he's the first one to systematize it and make it into a body that anybody can apply to find the truth of anything, material things even. You can follow the same pattern and find the truth of material things because we're really citizens of two worlds, the inner world and the outer world. So we have to be good citizens. We should be looking around at these crazy times, like you mentioned, say, what the heck is going on? Why is it like this? What's happening? And that remove if you can do that and you go deep enough, it's very difficult because we're just been fed as a bunch of confusion, right?
Mhm.
But if you can cut through that and get to something through logical means, you can find some truth that will give you some comfort during these crazy times.
So, what would you say is the solution? Yeah, these are crazy times. There've always been times of war and natural disaster and storms, like in your case. I always tell people, the solution is never going to change. Look inward and the answers will be there, or at least the directions of your soul, the gods, or anything of where
Yeah.
you need to pivot. You would
Seek
say
and you will
that's
find.
wise. That's wise decision.
Yeah, seek and you will find. But really, one of the best things is what Christ said, seek the truth and the truth will set you free. He didn't tell us to believe what others tell us is the truth. He didn't say listen to mainstream media. This is the main thing, right? He wanted us to find the truth for ourselves because that's the only way it works, really. Otherwise, if somebody tells you the truth and somebody else comes along and tells you it's the truth in maybe a more sophisticated, clever way, you'll stop believing the first one and believe the second one. So we have to find the truth ourselves.
What about the idea of fear, because that's such a big blockage, and it's so personal. I see other people being fearful of things, and I'm like, oh God, why do we even worry about it? I don't fear death or
Yeah,
anything, but
yeah.
I do have my Achilles heel. There are certain things that make me afraid, and my friends are like, what's up with you? It's up. Everybody has, again, this Achilles heel of fear, and it's irrational and it's personal. How do you overcome this affliction of fear, and what is fear to you?
Well, fear is definitely an elemental. And Dascalos' main talk, one of the main principles of his teachings, of that we're creating elementals. Most people call them thought forms.
Mm,
These aren't just, they're not nothing. They're real things, and they have a living existence, and they influence us. If you ever have really deep fear, man, you feel it and you start sweating, and your stomach hurts, and
yeah,
something's happening to you tangibly. So this is the influence of an elemental. And the more you feed into it, the stronger it gets until it can become just so crippling. That's what an OCD is, basically. It's
right.
some elements you just keep feeding. Now you can't go out the door because you're afraid. So the way not to succumb to that is that you have to face the fear and, seek the truth. So what's seeking the truth? Well, why am I, you ask questions. Why am I afraid of this? What will happen if this thing I'm fearing comes about? And if you notice something, fear is never about something in the past. It's always about something in the future, which means it pulls you out of the present moment. If you
Mm.
stay in the present moment, you won't have the fear. If you stay in the present moment, you won't give in to guilt of the past. Guilt is in the past, fear is in the future. So what we really need to do is just stay right here in the present moment.
Beautifully said. Yeah, and as they say in AA, one day at a time. Do what you can today, and yeah, do a little introspection. I think waking up in the morning is sometimes some of the most important times. If I, before my ego floods my being, if I do the right, prayer, the right meditation, I see the world with perspective, then my day is a lot easier to handle.
Yeah, good advice. Introspection is very good. And you'll notice something about fear. It often attacks you in the morning and
Mhm.
right as you're falling asleep. And that's the reason is because you start to lose, you're not as focused, you're not as aware. So it can come in and start to bother you right before you even get out of bed.
Yeah, it reminds me of last night. It's such a classic thing. I did a good meditation. I was my gratitude list, and I'm laying in bed, cat sleeping, and I'm thinking. Then this thought comes in, Miguel, what happened to that box of tea you bought at the store? You lost it. And I got out of bed and I'm like looking in the house. I went out to the car when it's raining, and then but this time I just had to laugh at myself. I said, like you said, that elemental, that tulpa decided to come and get me at a place that I wasn't expecting. Like, who cares about a box of tea? I had plenty of tea in the house, but again, it tried to disrupt me. But these days I'm better because, again, I was able to do the breathing. Within 5 minutes, I was asleep. So these are little tricksters, aren't they, Daniel?
They are. They're more than just tricksters. They are really our adversaries.
Mhm.
These are the things that hold us back in life. What would you do if you weren't afraid of something? There'd be a lot more we'd do if we weren't afraid of something bad happening or us not getting what we wanted.
Yeah, it's the old saying, everything you ever wanted, it's on the other side of fear. So I would agree with that one too. Vince, what do you think, or do you have a question? I know you're not fearful to ask questions. I know that.
Definitely not. Yeah, no, many years ago, I had kind of an initiation about fear, and for a short time, something lifted fear away from me, and it was an interesting experience. And actually, what lifted the fear away from me is I was working on a project and I was being oppressed severely to the point where, and I kind of flipped my fear circuit breaker. But anyway, that's so I know what you're talking about. I have had a lesson about fear, but I was interested in Daniel. What kind of things in terms of seeking truth are you still working on? What kinds of questions do you still want answered at this stage after your experience with Dascalos and your own experiences? What still challenges you?
Well, I mean, the number one thing any seeker of truth is looking for is to know thyself. But what self are we talking about? You know, the human being's like a line. It has 2 points, one on each end of the line. We have a divine nature and a human nature. Well, most everybody thinks their self is this personality created in this lifetime. It has these fears, it has these strengths, these weaknesses, this thing they like, this thing they don't like, you know, and that's who we end up thinking we are. But when you start to have an experience of your higher nature, it's called the inner self, you start to realize that's not the real self. That's what the Buddhists call the non-self. So then you say, well, what's this other thing? Well, you feel it. We all feel it, but we're not really very clear about what it is and what it isn't. So to find that, we have to do a lot of work. We have to do a lot of work. And you mentioned introspection. That was the number one thing Dascalos taught, because
Mhm.
as seekers of truth of any system, we're climbing 2 ladders. We're climbing the ladder of consciousness. We always talk about raising our consciousness, but we also have to uplift our self-awareness. So these are 2 different things. Who you are as a self. Now, you know, in Socrates on the Temple of Delphi, they
Right.
said it was Socrates' words, know thyself. But really, it was from Plato's great uncle who said that. He was one of the 7 wisest sages of
Mhm.
ancient Greece, Solon, and he's the one that gave Plato the information on Atlantis. And
Mhm.
so Plato changed it and said, know thy soul. It says thyself because most people think the self is this little personality with its strengths and weaknesses. So he was trying to get the idea out there that you try to know this inner self. That's what the whole work is about. And introspection is really the best way to understand that, because right now our outer self and our inner self is kind of mixed up in most people. So if you introspect, you will start to just be able to disentangle that outer self from the inner self. You know, oh, here's the lower self. It's full of fear. It's got anger. It's got these weaknesses. But this inner self is one thing and it's stable. And when you find that stable point in you, you found that inner self.
Which brings you to the question, okay, if you go deeply enough, do you basically find oneness and unity with the Creator?
Absolutely. Because you can't know yourself without knowing something of God. You can't know something of God without knowing something of yourself, because we're an offspring, right? All the enlightened ones have said that. We're a child of God. So what's that mean? Well, what's born of a God is a God. What's born of a horse is a horse, right? So we're trying to find this thing. And we've had so many masters on the planet saying basically the same thing, different ways in their own time and to their own people, but it's always about going back to the self and its source.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed that. What other creatures or like consciousnesses have you encountered? Non-human consciousness, for example, you mentioned angels, right? A holy guardian angel. What do you think the structure, from what you've experienced so far, is of the universe? There's humans and there's animals, of course, but what other entities have you encountered?
It starts out with this oneness of God, and Ramana Maharshi mentions God, calls it beingness. Beingness, that's plurality, isn't it?
Mhm.
Then we have Origen, one of the early Christian fathers. He called it beingness, God beingness. Dascalos called it absolute infinite beingness, which means God's composed. It's not the only thing, but God is composed of a number of infinite spirit beings, never born, never died. And when it comes time for them to express themselves, they project a spirit ray. This is the teaching, a spirit ray out through one of the archetypes, eternal archetypes in the divine plan. One of them is an archangel. If and another one is called the human being, the human idea. So we are basically brothers with the archangels, because their ray has passed through the archangelic idea. Our ray has continued on and become humanized. Now we have a personality. The archangels don't have a personality. They are one with God all the time. So they can't say anything that God can't say. They don't have free will even. But that's it. So that's the only 2 beings. Now there's lots of other entities, but they're not eternal beings. The archangel and the human being is the only eternal being. And what are extraterrestrials? Human beings that have evolved much, much farther than we have. You take a planet, maybe it's 1,000,000 years older than Earth. What are we going to look like in 1,000,000 years? If it's a planet around a red dwarf, it could be 1,000,000,000 years older than we are. What if life was on one of those planets and had evolved 1,000,000,000 years more? They're not going to need spaceships they're not going to need the stuff we need. Let's just say that. They're in a totally different level. So we really have archangelic beings, extraterrestrials, which are just human beings, and then the human beings as we know them on Earth. But, there's other planets where human beings aren't as advanced as we are, and others that are way more advanced than we can even comprehend. So the entities, though, now these are just something different. Before those spirit beings are classified as an archangel or human being, their first gift they're given is free will. Well, some of them do rebel and choose not to pass through these archetypal ideas, and these are called the fallen ones, and they drop. And anything they create is called a true demon. Okay? But human beings are doing the same thing. When we create hatred, we think hate, and we're creating our own little human in nature devil, really. And it goes out and it strikes on that person. It tries to harm them. If they vibrate in harmony with it, then they might feel it. If they're innocent, it'll come back to us. So there's plenty of entities, and these really are elementals. But now try to think about an entity that's been worshipped for thousands and thousands of years, like one of the old gods, like Shiva. It's a beautiful god, but it's an elemental. Men have created that based on a divine idea, but man have created it. And so they prayed to it, they've worshiped to it for centuries and centuries and centuries. Now it's a living entity, but it is a big one, right? And the same thing about with I hate to mention its name, but the Baal from the old days.
Right.
And what's the other name they call it? Marduk. Right?
Marduk. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's him. So those guys have been sacrificing babies and worshiping this demon for a long time. Even Plato said it was going on in Atlantis. So can you imagine? That's like what, 20,000 years or what?
A long time, yeah.
Right? And somebody energizing that thought for so long, a lot of people doing it and worshiping and blood sacrifices, that's made a huge demonic entity. And it's still around today. And it's still being worshipped today. But on the other side, you have the Shiva, which is basically considered a benign entity, and they people who worship him really get help from him. But it's an entity. It's not an eternal spirit. It's just something humans have created. That's a lot to jump into right now.
Like an egregore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my next question was, the notion of evil, but you answered it. But at the end of the day, it is interactive. We give it power, or we don't give it power, inside or outside our heads.
That's right. But evil, what we call evil, is really just what?
Stuff we don't like.
Well, I like the Hindus. They call it's either knowledge or ignorance. Right. So evil is really just ignorance. And the extraterrestrials that are millions of years ahead of us, or whatever, hundreds of thousands of years ahead of us, they have gone past the notion of evil. So when they come to Earth and they see what's happening here on Earth, and they see man harming each other and torturing each other, they just see it as undeveloped good. And eventually, we all get past this idea of them versus us and all this creation of bad and good things. And we will go past the idea of something evil. Right now, we look around and we can see lots of evil going on. We can't say the people are evil that are doing it because they didn't create themselves. God created them. So it's not the people, but it's what they've done to themselves. It's not something God's created. It's something they've done to themselves. And it's the same principle as light and shadow, right? What's shadow? The absence of light.
Right.
I was in Egypt one time when they opened one of the tombs. It hadn't been opened for thousands and thousands of years. And it's black, and they open it up, and the light goes in, and where's the shadow go? It stops existing.
Yeah.
So in that sense, evil ultimately doesn't have an ultimate existence. It has a temporary existence down here in this world. But yeah, it's a very big subject. I got off the side there.
No, really well said. And What you say reminds me of so much, the main topic of this show, which is the Gnostics. The Gospel of Philip says the mother of all sins is ignorance. And the Gnostics repeat what you say. The Jesus in the Gnostics, whether it's the Gospel of Thomas, it's always self-knowledge, go within, look past the illusion. So, and some have said, Daniel, that Gnosticism is simply an inner Christianity that,
Yeah.
Got repressed or hidden. And I don't know if you want to say it's the true Christianity. Some people say it's just a different taste of Christianity. Some people are not ready to, they're happy with beliefs and faiths and Sunday worship and hoping for the best when they die. Can you blame them, Daniel? I don't know.
Christianity was hijacked in, the 300s by Constantine, basically.
Everything seems to get hijacked on this planet.
You're right. Governments, religions, everything.
Yep.
You're right.
It's interesting, but that's part of the plan, though, isn't it? I mean, you can't, in terms of looking at the unity of everything, if you believed in the, evolutionary, DNA story about how humans were grown up from smaller organisms, it's like from the very beginning, it's kind of a random adaptation kind of thing where there are forces of destruction, and then the forces of creation have to figure out ways around the forces of destruction, and the destruction is usually what we call evil, and so and that's where suffering is a sign that, hey, destruction is coming so that you can avoid it. And so it's all part of this big plan. That's the way I see it. Well, what do you think about that concept?
Absolutely. Suffering actually serves us in the sense that it wakes us up, It wakes us up to the illusion and to what's been going on. And it can't be better described than just look at what's happening today. If you look beyond mainstream media, you'll see what's really happening. And people are waking up in big groups, I think, more than I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Really?
And they realize, wow, we've been asleep and this thing's been going on being without our noticing. We got to do something, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So you seem pretty hopeful about where we are. It's a time of opportunity, you would say.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And I'd say it's one, for me, it's really, I can't imagine it. I mean, to me, it's almost like the opportunity that when Christ was around. What's happening now is like almost that kind of level of magnitude.
Yeah, but I think the difference is Christ is telling us there ain't no saviors coming. You have to be your own savior this time around.
Yep.
What about the idea of we talked about fear and overcoming fear? And beyond fear, of course, one of the issues today is the idea of trauma. We all have either past life trauma, childhood trauma. The Buddha said just being born is traumatic because we're thrown into selfhood and we're like, oh, what's this? I got skin and gums and all this stuff. But trauma seems to be, as people are understanding, it's not something you just get over or time heals all wounds. It's timeless. Just, the pain is timeless. How do you approach the idea of past life traumas and life traumas to heal those? Because when they come up, they inflate fear. They give us health issues, addictions, and so forth. And it's very invisible. We're not sometimes conscious of our traumas because we suppress them. What do you think of trauma, Daniel?
Oh yeah, it's a very real experience. And some people have all this trauma. Oh, it's so bad. I'm going to kill myself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the trauma is not there just so you kill your material body. It's there to wake you up. Mm-hmm. So instead of trying to kill the material body, and the trauma is not usually located on the material body, it's psychonoetical. It's mental and emotional, right? So killing your material body just means you don't have a material body. It doesn't get rid of the emotional, mental trauma. So you take that with you into the next afterlife, we'll call it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So so the best thing is to okay, if I'm suffering with this trauma, I need to break free. I need to come, try to understand it and make peace with it, or some way not to be under it. We're meant to be the masters, so we have to come up over the thing that is troubling us. And the
Yeah,
best way to me is that you face it, you know. You have to turn and face it. Because if you're not facing the sun of truth, what are you looking at? You're looking at your shadow because the sun's behind you. If the truth is behind you, it's casting the shadow, and you're related to that. Say, oh, that's the reality. No, turn and look at the light.
amen. That's for sure. That's for sure. And yeah, the teachings of Dascalos, again, you know, people can see the perennial religion from the Hindus to the Buddhists to the Gnostics to other inner mystical Christian sects and so forth. But one of the figures, again, we love to talk about on the show, a giant among giants, I would say, is Rudolf Steiner. What are some of the ideas that you incorporate or Dascalos incorporate from Steiner?
You know, I'm not a deep student of Steiner's. Dascalos respected him. He
Hmm.
came to Dascalos a couple of times after he had died,
Really?
and he knew him. But I haven't really personally gone into the system. But although I know some good Steiner people, and you know they're lovely, and they've definitely been benefited by the work.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Steiner, of course, was very instrumental in the idea of sort of a mystical, conscious Christ that we all have within us, and all that. He really promoted that, even after he broke away from theosophy and so forth. So, what do you think about ascended masters? Again,
Oh,
I'm
they're
writing I'm releasing a book next week on Elvis, and it shows a lot of his occult parts, Daniel. And he was very much into ascended master. He was very much into theosophy and Steiner and all that.
oh, I
So
didn't know
he,
that.
yeah, he was hoping he might be one, and he might wake up to it. So,
Nice. Yeah, the ascended masters are real, and as it says in Ledbeater's book, The Inner Life, you know, there's like 7 of them from this lineage that are on the planet at any time in a physical body, and 3
so
of them come out and show themselves, and 4 of them don't. And then he says in his, I've seen it in the 1908 publication of Inner Life. He says one will be born on Cyprus in 4 years. Well, 4 years later, December 12th, 1912, Dascalos was born.
mm,
So, you know, it seems pretty odd. There's nobody else that I heard from Cyprus that has anything close to Dascalos. So I believe that he's talking about Dascalos. Now,
yeah,
when you look at the book, though, it's been reprinted in 1917. So it says, and one was born on Cyprus. But the early one said one will be born in 4 years, and 4 years later he was born. So
mm,
they were feeding information into the Ledbetter and Besant
hmm,
and Blavatsky.
Who are the other
yeah.
ones?
One of them is named Master Hilarion, and he was in Syria at the same time Dascalos was alive, but he's not there now. And the other I don't know. But
I've heard of
Dascalos did,
Hilarion.
yeah. He's
Mm,
actually St. Paul. He's St. Paul that's come, now they call him Hilarion. But Dascalos did say, I was sitting in a lesson in 1991, and Dascalos said, a new one has been born in America, and he's a Native American. He's being protected by the elders, and he's not
mm.
going to come out for a while. He just dropped that one day in the class. So I've tried to find him. I haven't been able to find him yet, but
You'll have to continue scrolling down LinkedIn. Maybe it'll be on his LinkedIn profile. Although I doubt it. So the idea of ascended master, sometimes I think it's like these beings that come down from heaven, but basically it's very much like the Gnostic idea of the Christ consciousness and the Buddhist
exactly.
idea of the Bodhisattva. You're still born in the flesh and you awaken to your past lives and your awareness. I mean, it's not complicated, right, Daniel? It's an old concept.
Yeah, yeah. It's just somebody who's become self-realized, which
Mhm.
means Christ consciousness. So what happens, this is going to happen to every human being that gets self-realized. They go and it's like they could take their liberation, but they don't because they realize by this time they realize every person on earth is us.
Mhm.
And you can't leave your children down to die in a flood. You'd come down to try to save them, right? So they just keep coming back and coming back. And the good news about that is they start to awaken more and more people, and the more and more people get awakened, they start to come back. But pretty soon, this thing starts to accelerate, and the whole planet's shift in consciousness really rises. It's going to take a long time, but
Yeah. And I'm sure it's just not just our planet. I mean, it's a
it happens
big
on every
playing
planet.
field. There's other dimensions, planets. There's a lot of work to be done to, I guess, as the Kabbalist says, to heal the universe, the Tikkun Olam, wake everybody up.
Yeah.
What do you think, Vance? Any questions from you or any super chats?
Yeah, we did have a super chat without a question. Todd Klatt gave us one,
Thank you.
which was very nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I was wondering, what do you think about other universes? Do you think in the vast scheme of the cosmic divine existence, there are other universes with other rules, and are there universes where there isn't so much conflict? Peaceful universes, or like the Gnostic pleroma, for example. What would it be like to exist in a universe like that, in a pleroma?
Yeah, well, I mean, when we say universe, most people think of the three-dimensional universe, but there are many
Yeah.
universes, and they're governed by different laws. In the third-dimensional universe, the primary law is cause and effect, karma. What you sow, so shall you reap. That's what's driving everything that's happening to us and happening to everybody. But when you get to the next level, which we call the psychical, the Hindus call the astral, that's really the fourth dimension. And it has a different rules. It still has the law of cause and effect, but it has a primary thing is the law of attraction and repulsion. So you tend, in this universe, you tend to push away what you don't like and pull to you what you do like. So in that sense, it's a great preparation for reincarnation because it calms people down. Here, we get what we don't like all the time, right? And we have law of cause and attraction and repulsion here too, but it's the primary law in the fourth dimension. And then there's the fifth dimension, what we call the noetical world, or what the Hindus call the mental world. And beyond that, there's the noetic, so there's many, many levels. And the higher up you go, the more you feel like your true self. And the less, you don't have to pay bills, you don't have to do all these things you don't like that we don't like on earth. So you get the time to explore what you do like. What does and most people don't even bother with spirituality on the other side. If you're really strong into it on this side, you'll still keep studying on that side. But because the law of attraction and repulsion pushes away those disliking things, you're having a great time. In the 30s, they used to call this place Summerland because it was like getting out of school for the summer. It was so free and easy.
Oh, I remember those days. Yeah, it's almost like we're batteries in this three-dimensional world. The energy conservation and so forth, the conservation of energy, the fact that we grow old because kind of our battery goes down, but maybe in the other realms, like the higher realms, that you don't have that limitation where there's a limitation on how long you exist. I mean, existence is inherently eternal, right? So our
You get
vehicles
high
are
enough,
like
yeah, you'll
batteries.
realize you're eternal. But yeah, you're right. Even just on the next level, on the psychical plane, after our material body dies, uh, Steiner said you stay there about half the time you lived on Earth, but it's not fixed at all. I know some people that have been there 3,300 years. I know the Dascalos said he knew one mystic who could come back in 10 months. He used to come back in 2 years, Dascalos said. But it's just subjective. It's what do you want? It's law of cause and effect now. I mean, attraction and repulsion. So it depends on different people.
Yeah, time. I think you're referring to time and the malleability of time beyond our three-dimensional universe, where we're kind of like, it's kind of like we're in the car wash. You put your car in the car wash and it drags your car through, and you can't do anything about it.
I was there yesterday. Yes.
Cosmic
Yeah,
car wash.
time losing its meaning higher and higher, these higher and higher dimensions, until you're in this upper noetical, which is the threshold of the eternal now. And then when you're eternal now, and it's like, well, there is no time. Time is not.
How about the multiverse? What do you think about the concept of multiverse?
I don't really I believe in it, but not so much of the way people are talking about it. I mean, there's a multiverse going on all the time, but there's not like you're not living 5 different other lifetimes. You're living this lifetime. You could live as any different way you wanted to, and you can change and have a different life. Even on this world, it's harder, but uh, I don't believe that we're living in multiple bodies simultaneously in different places. I haven't seen the evidence of that anyway, and I haven't seen anybody that any of the high teachers that I've studied speak of it like that. But in the sense that we're creating our own reality all the time, so we're all in our own multiverse. What right now we're talking and people are listening and everything, and not one of us has the same idea or view of what's happening.
No,
So we're all creating our own reality. So in that way, you know, we're all creating our own universe.
for sure, for sure. Well, tell maybe a little bit about the program and the organization you're in. What is the Pyramid Spiritual Center, Daniel?
Well, it's just a center I built here in Indiana, and we
Hmm.
have gatherings and workshops and everything. And it's a place to come and really like study more deeply and to learn in a way you can't learn by reading the books or hear. I do podcasts and things and YouTube stuff, but when you're here in person and you get the dynamic is so different, and there's lots going on at multiple levels here, so you can get more personal training.
Yeah. Oh, Indiana. That's not too far from where I am. I'm in northern Illinois. So,
Oh, are you? Yeah.
yeah. I might have to check out. I always love these sort of experiences and teachings. I think Chicago has become such a wasteland for spiritual rewards, personally, but there are other places. Good to see other places in the Midwest that have some. Yeah, of course, the Theosophical Society is in Wheaton, which I love. Have you been there, Daniel?
No, I haven't.
Mm,
Wheaton, Illinois.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't
You
know that.
That's where she built it. Yeah, the original one. The
No, I didn't
Colonel
realize that.
and HP. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So I'll be doing an Elvis presentation actually in a couple of weeks. So talking about the book, but yeah, very spiritual place. Great place for meditation, contemplation. They have classes, yoga, retreats, all that. And yeah, it's been around since what, early 20th century somewhere.
mhm.
So yeah, definitely check it out. Check it out. And what kind of spiritual modalities do you present, or do you sort of work with each individual to help them get to where
Well,
they need to get?
we well both, but when we do seminars, I pick a theme and we create meditations. My wife does the meditations, and I do the teachings, and so it's always on a theme, and we go through a different theme. But then people get to ask questions, and we spend time with them personally, and so we do the best we can to guide them as they need. And it's
Mhm.
amazing what happens is the person itself pulls out the answer, pulls out the thing they need to hear. When we were at Dascalos uh, would just pick up the vibrations and thoughts of the people who were sitting there, and he would just create the lesson accordingly. And people go, "Wow, he answered my question I've been having for so long." And it sort of works that way now, although it's not like I pick up thought forms. It's just that the people themselves, their need pulls out what they are looking for. The thing we're seeking is always seeking us too. So
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. I think St. Francis of Assisi, what you're looking for is what is looking. Love that quote. But the other question I would have to you is, what about those who, for example, can't get to you, or can't get to the Theosophical Society, or can't get to Cyprus? Obviously, I get emails from people. They're somewhere in the boonies in northern Florida or in the desert of New Mexico, and they want some sort of spiritual experience. They want to evolve. They want, what we're looking for. What advice do you have for them, or what techniques they can use to
Well, there's
get
a
them on the road?
massive amount of stuff on the researchersoftruth.com and .org websites. There's just a massive amount. You could study it. and it's free. There's lots of free resources. We have the YouTube channels, the Instagram, all that kind of stuff. And interestingly enough, we just partnered with this other group this year who are a big group out of England. And they built a state-of-the-art, world-class spiritual center. And they've invited us to do our programs there. And they pay for everything. There's no cost at all. They house you, they feed you gourmet organic food, and we have seminars, and there's no cost. So it's just, if you can get to it, there's no cost. So
In England.
that's a new thing we're doing this year. Yeah, lighten.org. Yeah.
That's wonderful, wonderful. Any advice? I guess we go back to self-knowledge, right? When people ask me, I said, shut up, sit down, and breathe. And people are like, well, how does that work? It's like, if you want to be in a place where it's just you and you, sitting down and breathing, that's it. You're not, you're not on your phone. You're not thinking about things, and you just sit down and breathe, and you are with yourself. Yes, the thoughts will come, but then you'll realize that the thoughts are like, as Carly Simon said in You're So Vain, clouds in your coffee. They're not real. They're just sort of going around, and you sit down and you breathe, and eventually you're like, oh, this is who I am. It's very different. It's very wordless. So I always advise people just meditate. What about you? Anything else beyond meditation? Or tell us your view on meditation.
Well, the meditation is very important. We have 5 principles. 5, Dascalos called them golden keys. One is observation. You got to pay a lot of attention to what you're doing. But that's happening in the material world. If you're a sculptor, you have to observe how you're sculpting to get it come out right. So we have to observe, why are we reacting? What's happening with us? And the other one is concentration. Well, to do a good meditation, you have to learn to concentrate. And concentration is focused attention without any tension. So you have to learn how to focus without making yourself tense. And it's just like, you were talking about sit down and breathe. It's like the truth is everywhere. It's in us, it's all around us, but we're not seeing it because we're so distracted and our mind's so disturbed. It's like looking at a lake. If the lake is absolutely calm, you can see the trees reflected. But if the lake is disturbed, the trees are distorted. You can't tell what you're looking at. It's the same thing with us. We have to get ourselves calm, and breathing is the number one way to do that.
Yeah,
then we can see better. Then we can hear better. We can hear the inner guidance. We can also see what to do better. But we have to calm ourselves down. We have to turn off the cell phones, silence our emotions like our phones, silence our thoughts. And then what do you see?
Reality. You see yourself. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And of course, I'm no guru or expert, but it's really immensely helped. Again, I can fall asleep easier, which in this day and age is a victory for millions of Americans and Westerners just falling asleep, but it is a gift. I think too, Daniel, also listening to my body. I realize my body, as the saying says, the body don't lie, and the body has a lot of the answers because we have scientifically, we have neurons in our gut. It can tell us what the problems are because that's where we store trauma, fear, and many other answers. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's somatic knowledge, I guess they call it, of the body, of the body. But beyond you have to ask yourself in trauma, what's been traumatized? Sometimes there's physical trauma from an accident or whatever, but it's mental and emotional. But in our teachings, what you do when you meditate, you go beyond the emotional body, you go beyond the mental body, and that self is not traumatized. The little self, the personality self, is what's traumatized. So if you can get out of that personality self and identify with the inner self and connect with it, then you're beyond the trauma. And from that place, then you can really, really start to sort out your life. Because most people try to sort the problem out at the level they created the problem, right? And that's harder to do. So you really need this higher advantage. And it's the same thing about, like, we got troubling emotions. Well, the emotions don't sort themselves out by themselves. You have to go higher to mentally to kind of see it from a higher perspective. That's true all the way through this. So you get to the point where you're the inner self, you're the Christ consciousness, and there's nothing to sort out because you're fine at that level.
Yeah, beautifully said. Beautifully said. Well, awesome. And you also have your book, Diving with the Whales. That's tell the audience about that, and I'll put
Oh,
it on the show
I
notes.
created a series. When I met Dascalos, it was like meeting a super giant, So I was trying to use a metaphor that could carry some meaning of meeting something so much bigger than yourself. So I wrote Swimming with the Whale, which is the introductory workbook to it, Diving with the Whale, Swimming Lessons with the Whale, which are his practices he teaches. And finally, the last one I just released is called You Are the Whale, because ultimately, when you meet a guy like this is where you're going.
Mhm.
So, which teaches us something else about where we've been. When you meet somebody that's really annoying or you can't stand them, maybe we were in that place one time. So
Probably.
it helps cut the judgment when you realize we've all come through these layers and we're all headed for the same destination. It's just where we are on the path.
No, there you have it. Definitely get the books if you guys want the exercises and so forth. Highly recommended. And yes, I do have the show notes here if you want to check it out. And Vance, any last questions before we wrap up with this fantastic chat?
Yeah. Are you familiar with Alan Watts? What do you think of his teachings and how they relate to what you've learned over the years?
I haven't studied him deeply, but from what I've heard of his quotes and some of the stuff I've read, he was brilliant. He was very brilliant. But the thing that struck me funny is I heard him say that he used to have to drink alcohol before you go on and talk to get the confidence. I never knew that. But he comes
Yeah,
off
he had a
very,
relationship with the bottle.
I didn't know that. He's
Yeah.
very wise, though, in some of the comments he makes. I like him. Are you a
Yeah.
follower of him?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say follower, but for many years I enjoyed him very much, and especially in my younger years in the '80s, kind of helped me wake up a little bit.
Yeah, nice.
I love
Yeah.
his teachings on being.
There wasn't internet. So yeah, I think you could get Alan Watts on the radio and tapes,
Right.
and they
Yeah, I
weren't
used to.
copyrighted.
Yeah, I have a pile of cassette tapes. If you remember what
People are
those
going,
are.
what are those? What are those? What are you talking about? Alien technology or something.
And now you can get them on the web.
Yeah, yeah. So it is available. Yeah, he's wonderful. Yes, he did have a drinking problem. He did die an alcoholic, which is unfortunate, but no guarantees we are happy at the end of our journey. So that's just the world we is. Well, awesome. Anything else you want to tell the audience? Any other websites or courses coming up that they need to know or that you would like to promote, Daniel?
Just, we're doing, just check out the researchersoftruth.com. We'll list programs there. If they want to sign up to the mailing list, they can do that on the researchersoftruth.com and be posted about what we're doing. We're doing all kinds and lots of new things happening this year. The things are really expanding for us this year.
Good, good. Yeah, we need it, and it means people are listening. So certainly good luck with that. I really enjoy your message and what you're doing, but we are at the end. Appreciate those in the chat. Appreciate again the super chat, and yeah, we got a lot of cool shows coming next week. We got shows on runes, on summoning UFOs, the second part of our Platonic surrealism. So yeah, a lot of great shows. David Block will be soon. The third part of his trilogy. So yeah, check it out. Please support A.M. Biden any way you can. Like, subscribe. You know the drill. And I do take crypto and one-time donations and help keep this Red Pill Cafeteria going. But let us say goodbye until next time. Vance, thanks for keeping us company on this journey.
Oh, it's been delightful meeting Daniel and hearing about his experiences with Dascalos. And until next time.
Okay. Thanks for having me, guys. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Really
Anytime.
enjoyed it too, Daniel. Good luck with everything.
Same here.
And we shall talk when it's time for us to talk. Thanks for being here.
Godspeed to your good works.
Thank you. For everybody else, have a good weekend, and we shall talk sooner rather than later. Thank you.